reconciliation package. We'll see about that. That would be a very strong fourth quarter. Guys, it's been a great conversation this morning.
Thank you.
David, Gregory, great to see you both. Yep. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow. Stay with us. Stu, take it away on Varney Co. Stu.
All right. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, everyone. Today, President Trump is at the United Nations in New York. He will give a major speech to the General Assembly. It will be contentious. Several allies have defied American policy and endorsed Palestinian statehood. He will outline his own plan for Gaza. The U.S. has cut funding for several UN agencies, not popular with many delegates. But the U.S. is bailing out Argentina. Our president will meet with their leader today. The speech begins shortly. We'll bring you the headlines as they come into us. Stephen Myron, President Trump's man on the Federal Reserve Board, has laid out his case for sharply lower interest rates. Not sure how much influence he has. Fed Chair Jay Powell speaks later today. To the markets, we've seen a solid stock market rally this year. 7 record highs for the Dow. It's 28 for the S&P, 29 for the Nasdaq. This morning, we've got a mixed picture, not that much price change. Dow up 40, Nasdaq up 3, the S&P down a tiny fraction. Bitcoin, the quote there is 112.9. Little change for the 10-year Treasury yield. It is still well above 4%. You're now at 4.14. The 2-year actually hit 360 earlier, and that's where it is now, 360. Look at gold, $3,816 an ounce, up $40 today, another new high. On the show today, well, it's easy to dismiss Zohar Mamdani's campaign for New York mayor. His socialism won't work, and his anti-Semitism should have no place here or anywhere. But his theme of affordability is catching on. With the cost of electricity, healthcare, rent, they're moving up. Affordability is popular, and it's attracting moderate Democrats. Could be that affordability will be a theme for the whole party in next year's midterms. Jimmy Kimmel returns to late night tonight after less than a week off the air. However, the affiliate stations linked to Sinclair Broadcasting will not carry him. We're going to look at Kamala Harris's book about the election. In it, she trashes Joe Biden and the Democrat establishment. They offered negligible support. She puts a lot of the blame on them for her loss. Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025, Varney Co. is about to begin. Oh, I know this. I do know this. That is Taylor Swift. I know. I can tell. And there's a fine choice of a song, Bad Blood. That refers directly to Kamala Harris's book, which we are going to get into shortly. But we're going to start this morning with a look at the state of the stock market rally, because we have clearly been in rally mode for some time. Futures right now present something of a mixed picture. Dow up 50, Nasdaq up just 4. Tom Hayes here in New York for us. All the indicators closed at record highs yesterday. We've been saying that a lot this year, record highs here and there and everywhere. Is there much room left for this rally?
I think the market, the S&P 500, could push up another 5% to 7,000. Not in a straight line and not overnight, over the next 6 months. And there are a few tailwinds for this. First of all, you've got the Fed, okay? Anytime the Fed has restarted an easing cycle and you get 4 cuts over the next 12 months, like is priced in right now, we've got 4 to 5 cuts priced in, the S&P is up 16.1% on average. The second thing we've got is...
Can I just stop you there for a second?
Yeah, of course.
Historically, as soon as the Fed starts a series of rate cuts, and you know it's a series of rate cuts, S&P goes up 16%.
16.1% on average, 12 months out.
Okay. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What else you got?
Then you got earnings power, 13.7% earnings growth. We're at an extended multiple here, 22.5, so we could get some bumpiness. Usually you have this week, sell Rosh Hashanah, buy Yom Kippur, is a week period where you're supposed to go down about 0.5% in the S&P 500. We're not seeing that yet, so this might be an exception once again. Maybe we got all the corrections in April. And then finally, consumer sentiment is completely washed out. We're at levels not seen since the COVID lows, the European debt crisis lows in 2011, and in 2008, the great financial crisis lows. What happens next? S&P up 24.1% in the following 12 months. So I think as rates...
When consumer confidence comes all the way down? the S&P goes up.
Yeah, because it can't get any worse. So it starts to discount. And I think a huge function of this is you've got $35 trillion of home equity trapped. Now that rates are coming down, you're going to see the HELOC game come back on. Consumers are going to have more money to refinance, to get back in the market. The U.S. household is so under-levered right now. Their balance sheets are very, very healthy. They just can't get that equity out because rates are too high, and that's going to change.
On the issue of rates, I want you to listen to what newly minted Federal Reserve Board guy Stephen Myron had to say about interest rates. Watch this.
Including the inflation and output channels along with the median model implied R star, the Fed funds rate should be around 2 to 2.25% under the standard Taylor rule. The balanced approach implies a rate of around 1.5 to 2%. If we instead use the market implied R star, these numbers would all be 1 full point higher. The upshot is that monetary policy is well into restrictive territory. Leaving short-term interest rates roughly 2 percentage points too tight risks unnecessary layoffs and higher unemployment.
Okay, Tom, that is very technical stuff.
Yes.
Cut through it, and you see that he's calling for sharply lower interest rates now. Does this guy have much influence on the board?
He will have influence as far as shaping the narrative, and he's absolutely right, because what Powell is doing, it's a frog in a pot. You're turning up the heat, and you don't notice how restrictive it is until the layoffs start. And once they start, it's very, very quick. So what Myron is doing here is getting ahead of the curve. He's absolutely right. We should be 200 basis points lower. That will unlock housing. That will unlock tons of jobs. Housing is 16% of GDP. Unlock the consumer and let animal spirits roar.
Okay, we hear you. Now, you're going to stay with me for the hour. I want some more of that. Thanks very much. Kamala Harris gave her first TV interview since leaving office. Listen to what she had to say about CEOs who chose to support Trump.
They have been silent. I use the word feckless. But at some point, they've got to stand up for the sake of the people who rely on all of these institutions to have integrity and to, at some point, be the guardrails against a tyrant who is using the federal government to execute his whim and fancy because of a fragile ego.
Wow. Guy Benson with us this morning. She called Trump a tyrant. That hardly downplays the rhetoric. You know, I've seen all of this. She spent a lot of time blaming Biden and the Democrat establishment for not giving her full support. She has burned her boats, Guy. What do you say?
Yeah, talk about a fragile ego. Hers is shattered all over the place. She wrote a book that's trying to assuage, I think, her own thoughts about her own failures. There's a lot of reasons why Kamala Harris lost. One of them is Joe Biden. Another one is the Biden-Harris policy that she was a part of. I'm sure there were other factors out there, but overall, at least inwardly, within the Democratic Party, she lost, A, because she was up against a better candidate, and B, because she's a terrible one. She was a terrible candidate. She has failed upward in her career politically within Democratic Party circles for various reasons. And then ultimately the country had a choice, and they saw a woman who was just unprepared to be president, who was unprepared to do interviews in many cases and couldn't do well in those. And so I'm sure in her book that someone has helped her write, she's figuring out everyone she can point the finger at about her loss. But the fact is the people rejected her, and for very good reason. And last night in this interview, we were reminded at how bad she is at this.
Yeah. Kamala Harris also seemed to have endorsed socialist Zoran Mandami for the race for New York City mayor. Has she thrown in, having rejected the establishment and rejected Biden, has she thrown in her lot with young leftists?
Well, it doesn't seem like she fully went in full throat for Mamdani. She was asked about it in the interview, and she said, well, you know, sure. Yeah, I'll endorse the Democratic Party nominee, sure. Which was kind of shrug. I don't think she mentioned him by name in that answer. And then later made sure to say, oh, he's not the only star in this party. Maybe she has designs to run again. Maybe she feels like she's the rightful inheritor of the Democratic Party and she wants to give this another shot. And so she's trying to downplay other people, younger people within the party. She was very concerned apparently about picking Josh Shapiro, not just because we found out in the book that he's Jewish and that could be problematic for her base, but because he was younger and ambitious this, and she wanted that all for herself. So maybe she's taking shots at people down the ladder from her, and maybe she's trying to, I don't know, once again, straddle the fence here where she's raging against the establishment but doesn't want to go all in for the hardcore socialist left either, because she has this fantasy, in my view, that she's going to run again. Who knows what's going on motivationally in her mind, but she's telling us a lot of things in the book. I'm not sure it looks great for her.
Well, I think you're right. What a mess. Guy Benson, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again real soon. Coming up, the Secret Service just broke up a potentially devastating telecommunication attack on New York. Watch.
This network had the potential to disable cell phone towers and essentially shut down the cellular network in New York City.
We'll tell you how they traced the threat and what exactly they found. Plus, we were anticipating a meeting with President Trump and China's Xi Jinping this fall. Looks like we'll have to wait quite a bit longer. We'll bring you an updated timeline on that. Homeland Security Department says more than 500 arrests have been made in the first 2 weeks of Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago. It comes as ICE says their recruitment is through the roof. Acting ICE Director Tom Lyons is here. He's walking right behind me. He's joining me in just a moment. We have a new Gallup poll. Lauren, tell me, are voters happy with the way things are going?
No, these are the lowest marks of the president's second term. 29% say they are satisfied with the way things are going in the country. That's down from his high back in May. It was 38%, and it means 2/3 of respondents are unhappy. More Republicans said they were dissatisfied. Why the change of heart? The shooting of Charlie Kirk. Gallup's polling also showed higher concern for crime and violence, and the poll was taken when that event happened.
Got it. All right, Lauren, thank you. According to Homeland Security, over 500 arrests have been made in the first 2 weeks of their operation in Chicago. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons joins me here in New York today. How many of these arrests, 500 people, how many were violent criminals?
Honestly, hundreds. So out of, as of this morning, we're over 550 arrests. And what ICE is doing at Operation Midway Blitz is we are focusing on those criminal aliens that have been released from sanctuary jurisdictions. And those are the worst of the worst that we're out there looking for.
So the people that you arrested, 550 in Chicago, they were criminals.
They were criminals.
They were criminals not just because they crossed the border illegally, but because they committed crimes.
No, more than 70% of the people we arrest are criminal aliens. Now, not only do they have criminal records here, some of these individuals have criminal records in their home countries that we know of, but yet jurisdictions like Chicago, like Illinois, just release them back to the streets to reoffend. That's what ICE is focused on.
That's ridiculous. Why would any jurisdiction in America, sanctuary city or otherwise, protect known violent criminals? Why do they do that?
That's what's frustrating for us. Is I can give you a prime example. Within the past 24 hours, we arrested an individual that did 9 years in prison, in state prison, for multiple counts of strangulation, domestic violence, criminal mischief, violating protective orders. But yet those are the people they want to protect, right? Those are the ones that they want to oppose ICE and don't want us to take into custody. For me and the men and women of ICE, it's mind-boggling, because why would you shield those criminal aliens, the ones that are out there causing mayhem, causing harm? I mean, Operation Midway Blitz, we're doing that in honor of Katie Abraham. Young, beautiful girl that lost her life to a DUI crash by someone that shouldn't have been in our country. That's what we're focused on. And we really wish that elected officials would stand with us to go after those criminal aliens.
In sanctuary cities, they're not doing that, are they?
No.
They're opposing you.
100%. If you look at some of the protests, whether it be Portland or now in Chicago, you have activists that are being driven into locations who show up with gas masks, but their own batons. They're throwing their own CS gas. They have shields. If you're coming to, exercise your First Amendment right, we're all for that. But if you're coming to battle it out with law enforcement, that's a huge issue. And then we have elected officials and those who want to run for office that are out there in the mayhem as well. What's that say to your constituents? That you value the livelihood of these criminal aliens over your citizens.
California Governor Gavin Newsom, I think he's passed a law in California saying ICE agents cannot wear masks. Is he in a position to dictate to federal employees? He's a state employee. Is he in a position to dictate that to feds?
No, he's not. Unfortunately, that whole bill was just political theater. We would much rather have the governors say, hey, look, we're going to unmask these doxers that are doxing these agents and their families. We're going to unmask these protesters that are violently protesting and assaulting law enforcement officers. Yet he's pitting state and local law enforcement against federal law enforcement. It's just not right. ICE isn't a political football. We're a valuable law enforcement agency that people need to realize we're out there doing a sworn law enforcement mission.
Can you see the point coming where at some point in the future you carve out industries saying, look, these illegals, they're really helping this industry, farming, for example. Can you see a point coming where we have a carve out?
You know, I don't want to get ahead of the president, but I will say that the president realizes that immigration law needs to be followed. It has been followed under the past administration. We can't do anything by executive order. One good thing under Secretary Noem is she's allowed us to do the law the way it's meant to be. So for now, we are focused on those individuals. And unfortunately, until we get our hiring numbers up, we are focused on the worst of the worst. So that's who we have to be focused on. We really can't worry about, you know, who's here just illegally in the country. While all aliens are on the table, we have to focus on these ones that sanctuary jurisdictions are being let go.
We hear that recruitment for Homeland Security is going through the roof.
It is.
It is?
It is.
Helped, no doubt, by a $50,000 signing bonus.
You know, it's definitely, you know, that definitely helps. Our tuition reimbursement definitely helps. But I really think there are a lot of Americans that just want to be in law enforcement, that they understand that this is a law enforcement mission. They want to serve their country. You know, they want to do what they voted for, right, is to make America safe again. It's a great agency to work for. I'm proud to have been there more than 20 years. Men and women of ICE, some of the bravest law enforcement officers out there. And I think people really want to be a part of that mission.
Got it. Director Lyons, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'll shake that hand. Hold on for a second. We'll get you off the set in just a moment. Now this, President Trump plans to redirect some of the money originally meant for that California high-speed rail project. Okay, redirecting. So where's it going now?
Everywhere. The Transportation Department wants to boost rail traffic across the country, especially in areas where there are families. They also want to target transit crime. Secretary Sean Duffy says this new $5 billion program will emphasize safety without the radical DEI and green grant requirements. It's basically a big undo of what the previous administration did. Look, California's bullet train got $4 billion in federal funding. $2.4 billion of that is now being redirected under this new program. That high-speed rail was approved, it's amazing,
Yes.
17 years ago. And now, billions of dollars later, not a single track has been laid.
Right.
And the initial cost has skyrocketed to like $130 billion.
Newsom's not going to be pleased with the feds taking whatever it is billion off him. Tom, you are a California guy.
Yeah.
Well, am I right in saying that high-speed bullet train, whatever you want to call it, is toast?
It's absolutely toast. In markets and elsewhere, money goes where it's treated best. Money was absolutely incinerated in this project. Now it's going for safety, intercity trains. The #1 job of a president is to keep his people safe. This money is being redirected towards safety. It's being.
What do the people of California think about this? This thing is over $100 billion in total cost. It's not going to be built. Is there no political comeback against Newsom for this?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, we've got among the highest taxes in the country. We've got a project that's completely failed. We've got feckless leadership that hasn't worked. This is just one more example. And we want that money invested in our schools, in our safety, in our kids, and not in railways to nowhere.
20 seconds. Can you see the day coming when a Republican could win a statewide election in California?
Yes, but it would have to be an actor. That's the only Republican that can get elected in the state of California would be an actor. And there are some in queue. We will see. To be continued.
Yes, you're here with me for the hour, so maybe reveal some names later.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, thanks very much indeed. Check futures, please. We're running up to the opening of the market. I see some green, Dow up 40, NASDAQ and S&P really mixed. The opening bell is next, and we're going to take you there. Futures presenting something of a mixed picture so far today. Dow's up 60, the rest hardly any change. David Nicholas is with us. David, NVIDIA puts $100 billion into OpenAI. Looks to me like NVIDIA is propping up the whole AI business. So I'm asking, is the promise of AI beginning to fade maybe?
Stuart, it's not. I mean, they just announced a deal yesterday that was with OpenAI, so NVIDIA and OpenAI, to build a 10-gigawatt data center. And what is driving that? Because remember, OpenAI owns ChatGPT. ChatGPT has over 700 million weekly active users. That requires a lot of data processing power. It requires a lot of energy. And so with this deal is done, Stuart, they announced 10-gigawatt facility. I just want to put this in perspective. Here in Georgia, we have the Vogtle plant. It's a nuclear plant that produces 4.5 gigawatts a year. They want to build a 10-gigawatt energy facility. This is massive, Stuart. It's unlike anything we've ever heard of. This tells me the demand for AI is very real, but it's going to require a lot of energy, and it's going to be finding that energy is going to be the challenge, Stuart.
Has it reinvigorated the tech stocks? I noticed when the NVIDIA OpenAI deal was announced, tech stocks pretty much went up across the board. Is it giving them some new life, maybe?
Yes, Stuart, it is. This is a wind in the back of the sails for technology stocks, for both AI stocks. I like it for NVIDIA, for TSM. Really, if you look at the entire tech stack from Meta, from Google, all of these names, Stuart, the Mag 7 names are powered by AI. This is bullish for that sector, Stuart.
Powell, as in Jay Powell at the Fed, he gives remarks in Rhode Island later on today. What do you want to hear that would please the market?
Yeah, Jerome Powell speaks today in Rhode Island around lunchtime. I'm praying he doesn't say anything to derail the market, but the market wants to know how much and how fast, right? When are these rate cuts coming? Stuart, the market expects 2 more rate cuts this year. What I don't want Jerome Powell to say is to say anything that will derail the market expectations. So I just want status quo. I want him to give a good speech. I want him to eat his lunch, and I want him to go home and let the market expectations stay right where they are.
Stephen Myron is giving a pretty good idea of why he expects, or why interest rates should be sharply lower. I asked earlier if he has much influence on the board, and the answer was no, he probably doesn't. But nonetheless, our analysts here think that you should be cutting rates dramatically. What say you?
No, I agree with that. There's a battle right now between Fed governors and Fed presidents. Look, I just think the housing market is broken. The Federal Reserve is to blame for that. The only way you unlock what your earlier guest was saying, unlock wealth, is to get rates down so people can start moving and unlocking all this wealth that's tied up in real estate. You got to get rates lower, Stuart.
It's going to take a while, isn't it?
It is, but it's got to happen. We should get 2 more rate cuts this year. We should see multiple more rate cuts next year. I don't think it's an economy that's slowing, but it's to unlock wealth is what should be driving this.
Okay. He speaks at 12:30 Eastern Time. We'll see what he's got to say. Thanks so much for joining us, David. We'll see you again real soon. All right, they're clapping, they're cheering, they press the button, and the market is now open. Off we go. The Dow Industrials opening with, I'm expecting a very small amount of green, and that's what we've got, 55, 60 points to the upside. If you look at the Dow 30, it's a fairly even split between winners and losers. No significant price trend at this point, marginally higher. However, I've got to tell you, at 46,450, that's a new all-time intraday high for the Dow Industrials. It's probably the same with the S&P. If it's gone up at all, it has not. It's down. It might go up, and it might be a new intraday high. We'll see. Dead flat to slightly lower. That's how I'll characterize the S&P. And the Nasdaq Composite, where is that? It's down 6 points, virtually nothing, 0.03% down. Big tech. Now, where's that this morning? Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft up. Amazon, NVIDIA down. Well, let's pull out NVIDIA. They went straight up yesterday after their deal with OpenAI. Looks to be like they're down like 1% today. That's it?
Who cares? Dan Ives of Wedbush says NVIDIA is the Tom Brady of technology. How many Super Bowl rings does Tom Brady have?
7.
7. So when he had 2, he can't get 3. When he had 3, he can't get 4. It keeps going and going and going. This is a company with a $4.5 trillion valuation. In this major deal with OpenAI, a $100 billion deal to support these new data centers, just to give you an idea of how much power they require, enough gigawatts of AI to power 8 million homes. One of the reasons the stock could be down today is it's up so much already, but it does raise antitrust concerns. NVIDIA has this chip, the chip, that's fueling the new world of artificial intelligence and the quest for super intelligence. This will translate into, analysts have said about $400 to $500 billion of return for NVIDIA, but that could be too much for Washington.
$400 billion return?
Yes.
Okay, let's see how that works out.
To 2 analysts.
Another stock that's been all over the place, but sharply higher recently, that's CoreWeave. Who's bullish on them?
A pair of upgrades. Wells Fargo, they go to overweight, $170 price target. Melius goes to a buy. They IPO'd at $40 at the start of the year. But CoreWeave is in a deal with NVIDIA to sell NVIDIA any cloud capacity that they haven't already sold. So it's like this AI spending just keeps going around and around and around. And these are all the beneficiaries. And they might be down one day, but they're all up big time over a longer period.
All right, Tom, hold on a second. CoreWeave IPOs at 40.
Yep.
It rapidly goes to 190.
Yep.
Then it rapidly comes down to, I think, 88 was the low.
Yep.
Now it's 134. Would you buy this thing?
It's the Wall Street fashion show. Okay, this is the flavor of the month. It'll trade at many, many multiples of sales before it has profitability. This is not what we do for a living. We'll leave it to other people. It can run more, but you know, if these companies miss by 1 or 2%, the stock's not down 1 or 2%. The stock's down 40 or 50%. So for us, with our clients' money, we want to bet on things which a sure bet. We sleep well at night, get them at good prices, generate free cash flow, don't have to think about it. But there are many people that play this game and do quite well. Mike Lee is one of them.
That was a fine commercial there for both yourself and Mike Lee. All right, let's have a look at that. Dow's up 120. Apple, they've been on a nice run. Look at them now, 256.
Yeah, they're up 2% on the year, so they turned it around. Positive on the year. Strong iPhone 17 demand thus far. And look, the record high for their shares is 260. They're closing in on that. And I want to point out, this is without an AI catalyst, because a lot of analysts say they haven't factored in any AI into Apple's share price.
This is interesting. Google says they're going to reinstate some banned YouTube accounts. Okay, what kind of accounts?
Political ones. Those accounts that were permanently banned for political speech. Who does that include? Steve Bannon, Dan Bongino, and others. Google admitted that it once faced pressure from the Biden administration to remove content about the election or COVID-19. So those accounts have the opportunity to rejoin now if they'd like to.
Complete reversal. Okay. Yeah. Walmart, they're making it easier for patients to get their prescriptions. How are they doing that?
Same-day delivery for Ozempic and Zepbound and most other drugs that you need to put in the refrigerator. I didn't realize that the shots needed to be cool. I'm sorry. I didn't know that. We talk about this stuff all the time. You would think I'd know that. Walmart is making same-day delivery cooler because that's where the demand is, right? That's what people want. And specialty refrigerated drugs make up 30% of their pharmacy sales.
Just give me the pill, okay? That's all I'm asking for.
It's coming in the fourth quarter, most likely.
Really?
Yes.
Now she tells you. I didn't know that.
I've been telling you this for months.
Okay. Show me Boeing, please. I believe it's on the upside. It's 1.7%. Why?
Plane orders. When are they coming or when are they being announced? UN week. Why? The president is in town. Right. And he's also doing all these trade deals. And Boeing, our company, is part of the negotiation. So this is what we know. Trump said Boeing received an order from Uzbekistan Airways worth more than $8 billion. Reportedly, Turkey plans to buy hundreds of Boeing planes. And this is big. The U.S. ambassador to China, that's David Perdue, he says they are finishing negotiations for a huge order from China, and that could be as many as 500 planes.
But can they produce that many planes in the next 5 years, for heaven's sake? Who knows?
I don't know.
Well, the stock's up.
Great for American workers. They're
Uber.
try to.
I'm just starting to use Uber a bit. They're launching a new feature. What's prepaid passes?
I triple dog dare you to Uber Eats a pizza.
No. What's these prepaid passes?
If you frequently go from, let's say, your apartment to the office, it's a trip you commonly take. You can buy those rides ahead of time in bulk, and you can get a discount on them of up to 20%. And if the price goes down, Uber will match the lower rate. So this is a way for the rider to get around surge pricing, and it's a way for Uber to communicate that it's a value. For riders.
The other day, it went above $100 a share, too. First time I've seen that. Okay. Lauren, thanks. Tom, you brought with you some stock picks. I'm looking at the prompter, and I see you're back to Intel.
Yes.
No, wait a second. Kudos to you. You're the guy who recommended Intel at like 18 or 19.
Thank you.
You went out on a limb.
Yeah.
Now it's 29.30. Where's it going?
It's going higher because the NVIDIAs of the world, the designers, rely on the kindness of strangers for the success of their business. And right now, the only game in town is Taiwan Semiconductor for NVIDIA to get their chips. And Taiwan Semiconductor has capped their growth at $4 billion per quarter. So this investment into Intel of only $5 billion, it starts with CPUs, it will go to GPUs. And if you think President Trump is selling Boeing planes, wait till you see how many Intel chips he's going to sell now that we, the taxpayer, own $9 billion worth of stock.
That's right. We take a piece of the action.
That's right.
It's transactional president. Yeah. That's what it is. Comstock Resources, what do they do and why do you like them?
Okay, this is a natural gas play. Data center demand up 165% through 2030. 60% of that will be powered by natural gas. Comstock Resources owns 75% by Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys. Yep. We want to be an investor with him. He's an oil and gas wildcatter, 1.1 acres, Haynesville, close to the export terminals, close to the liquefaction terminals in the Gulf of Mexico, close to data center where they're putting all the data centers. So this is going to be a great play. It's trading at liquidation value. This thing could go from 16 to 45 over the next 3 to 5 years.
It's going up as you speak. You have market impact. All right, thanks very much indeed, Tom. Coming up, CNN's Harry Enton. He's got a warning for Democrats ahead of the midterms. Watch.
Democrats should call their offices because at this particular point, even if Republicans, or even if the public doesn't like what Donald Trump is doing, they ain't necessarily liking what Democrats are doing.
Okay, repeat that. The Democrats cannot beat the GOP, so says Harry Enton. Brett Baer's coming up to take that on. Plus, take a look at this map. It shows roughly 151 of the 193 UN member states now recognize a Palestinian state. That includes some of our closest allies like Britain and France. Why do democracies support Hamas? It's the same as supporting a Palestinian state. I'll put that question to Senator Bill Hagerty. He's next. The Secret Service says they took down a device network that could have been used for attacks on telecommunications in New York. What do we know about this?
It was directed towards senior U.S. government officials. Secret Service say they found multiple devices concentrated some 35 miles from the United Nations General Assembly meeting. Agents seized 300 servers, more than 100,000 cell phone SIM cards in multiple locations around New York. That's enough to send texts to dismantle the region's interconnected phone system and essentially shut down the cellular network in New York City.
Ouch. All right. Thanks, Lauren. France is the latest country to officially recognize a Palestinian state. A member of the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate, Senator Bill Hagerty, joins me now. Mr. Senator, why are Western democracies supporting Hamas? Because if you support a Palestinian state, essentially, you're supporting Hamas, and I don't understand it.
That is precisely right, and it's just another exercise at the UN of futility. Without the United States and Israel's involvement here, this exercise is going nowhere. And if you think about it, what if they were to get their wish? What if they actually, if they actually were to recognize the state, who's going to lead it? Abbas right now is in the 20th year of his 4-year term. If there were to be an election today, Hamas would win. If Hamas were leading, who do you think they would cut treaties with if they were an independent nation? You can imagine. Iran, with Russia, where Abbas got his PhD, by the way, with China. This would completely destabilize the Middle East. This is nothing more than a political show at the UN. And if you think about the UN's performance, Stuart, just remember no more than the fact that UN relief agency workers were involved in the October 7th, 2023 attack. It's another disgrace.
We took our show to London last week, and one of the issues there was the influence of the large Muslim minority in Britain. It occurs to me that some Western democracies with a large Muslim minority are responding to Israel and Gaza by basically supporting their minority. Are they under pressure from their own domestic populations to do this?
Stuart, I think that's very insightful. You look at Macron, who's called this, he's in trouble domestically in France. Politically, he's having a very hard time. If you look at his population, 1/2 of his population is Jewish, 10% is Muslim. So you may have hit the nail on the head in terms of the domestic pressures that these leaders are kowtowing to, as opposed to doing what is right and what is in the interest of the Middle East and their ally, the United States and Israel.
Let me change subjects for a second. The White House says they're 100% confident that they will secure a deal for TikTok. Do you believe Beijing will follow up on the agreed upon terms?
Well, it's always difficult. I dealt with China when we were involved. I've dealt with China in the private sector. I was very closely involved in the negotiations in the China Phase 1 deal when I was ambassador to Japan. A lot of work on that deal actually happened in Tokyo. China has failed to follow through on many of its agreements. But in this case, I'm very comforted in the fact that Oracle will be involved. I've talked with leadership at Oracle. They certainly would be capable of ring-fencing the algorithm, of updating it, making certain that it is not contaminated in any way by Beijing. I think that's going to be an essential component of the deal. Certainly that's the requirement of the law, that no foreign adversary control this sort of application. So I think that they're moving in the right direction. I haven't seen the terms. I've heard rumors about who may be involved in the ownership. Larry Ellison, of course, with Oracle. Michael Dell, I've heard, even Lachlan Murdoch. So it'll be interesting to see how it all comes together, but I think they must be very close given what we've been hearing.
Senator Haggerty, as always, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We'll see you again soon.
Great to be with you, Stuart.
Yes, sir. Thank you
so much.
Lauren, President Trump has been teasing a meeting with China's Xi Jinping. It was supposed to be forthcoming fairly soon, but apparently that's not the case.
Possibly next year instead of very soon. So the U.S. ambassador to China is leading this bipartisan group of lawmakers. They're in Beijing this week, and they held talks with Chinese leadership. David Perdue, the ambassador, described them as constructive talks, said there's enthusiasm for the two presidents to meet. Trump initially suggested there could be an in-person this fall, but likely that will be pushed into 2026.
Yeah, push that aside. wasn't popular with everyone.
They got a lot to iron out maybe before they have that ceremonial meeting.
Sure looks like it. Lauren, thank you. Coming up, Zoran Mandami has seized on a powerful message that resonates with New York City voters. That message is affordability. People are being squeezed just to pay for basic things like health, rent, electricity. But I want to be clear, Mandami's socialism will not work. However, his appeal to affordability is a powerful message. It's catching on. That's my take. Top of the hour. Fox Business getting a look inside OpenAI's new Stargate data center in Texas, one of the biggest AI infrastructure projects in the world, and it's on track to create 100,000 jobs. We'll take you to the highly guarded facility right after this. Well, Fox is getting a first-hand look at the Stargate data center. It's in Abilene, Texas. That's part of the massive $500 billion project led by OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank. Madison Allworth is there for us. Madison, how's it coming along?
Good morning, Stuart. It's huge and it's very busy. This is this first Stargate data center. They have part of it open, part of it is still under construction. And my team is one of the first group of journalists to actually get inside this data center since its opening, not only on site, but we're going to get a tour as well. This is huge. It is really locked down. I can't explain just how much security there is because this is tons of proprietary data, and all of this is the backbone of AI and OpenAI's infrastructure. So this tour really could not be coming at a better time. NVIDIA just announced that they're investing $100 billion into OpenAI. The strategic partnership is going to help OpenAI to get to its goal of deploying 10 gigawatts of AI data center capacity. That's part of their Stargate commitment. It also gives the artificial intelligence company money to buy more NVIDIA products. When you think about it, they need the chips, and the chips need OpenAI. They're going to be spending upwards of $100 billion on those NVIDIA chips. But I was able to talk to Sarah Fryer. She's the CFO of OpenAI just before we went to air. She said, yes, some of the money will be going to the chips, but money will also be going to researchers. We've talked about those AI talent wars. So some of it will be going there. Some of it will just be operational, whatever investments are needed. She says that NVIDIA will be investing at $10 billion at a time until they get to that $100 billion price point. All of this is a ton of money going towards that ultimate goal of U.S. dominance in AI. And it all relates back to this administration. President Trump announced Stargate back in January, right after taking office. The project includes this $500 billion commitment in AI infrastructure over the next 4 years here in the U.S. with that goal of U.S. dominance in the space. And what's so exciting, Stu, is to see this up and running. This is just the first Stargate data center. The goal is to have at least 20 of these across the U.S. And we're going to get to talk about that and ask CEO Sam Altman After the tour, I'm going to be sitting down with him. We'll talk to him about this NVIDIA deal, about the other data centers, what's to come, and more. All of that's happening this afternoon. First team on the ground here, and it is an incredible site. There's a lot of red clay and a lot of workers. It's open, but lots more work to be done, Stu.
Got it. Madison, thanks very much indeed. Thomas, still with me. Give me an idea how massive that project is.
It's huge. 10 gigawatts. You know, the AI industry needs energy like a diabetic needs insulin.
Right.
Okay, this is absolutely huge. 10 gigawatts, to put in perspective, would be 45,000 football fields worth of solar panels. We're not going to get there with solar. We're going to get there with natural gas. We're going to get there with energy. It's so interesting. Energy right now is the lowest weight of the S&P 500 since the COVID lows when energy traded negative. This is a generational opportunity. Everyone's chasing CoreWeave and chasing chips. The play is going to be energy, and it's going to be U.S. energy, which dovetails with President Trump drill, baby, drill policy.
Okay, you got me. Thanks, Tom. Coming up in the 11 o'clock hour, we'll hear from former Energy Secretary and former Texas Governor Rick Perry on Texas becoming a leader in AI. Tom, again, thanks for being with us for the hour. Appreciate it. Still ahead, former CIA Station Chief Dan Hoffman will react to Putin challenging NATO with brazen airspace violations. Brett Baer on CNN reporter sounding the alarm for Democrats ahead of the midterms. He's from CNN. We'll see what Brian Kilmeade thinks of Don Lemon calling Charlie Kirk's memorial religious nationalism. And Alicia Finley will make the case that social media is creating flabby young brains. The 10 o'clock hour of Varney and Company is next.
But first, let me take a selfie.
Let me take a selfie. For the weather, maybe tomorrow will be better.
Some of our regular viewers may notice that 6th Avenue today is very crowded. The reason for that is that New York City is all tied up with the UN big meeting and President Trump addressing that big meeting. Traffic all over town, tied up, as we said. All right, good morning, everyone. Yeah, it is 10 o'clock Eastern time. Straight to your money. We've got a Dow Industrials with a 300-point gain at this point. Small gain for the S&P, 87 points down for the NASDAQ. But here are the stocks which are leading the Dow. Goldman, Caterpillar, American Express, United Health. You put them all together, and they add 247 points to the Dow Industrials. As for the 10-year Treasury yield, that's well above 4%. You're at 4.14 right now. Bitcoin, 114,000. No, you're down to 112.9. That's the Bitcoin quote of the moment. And that's the markets. And now this. Oh, yes, it is easy to dismiss Zoran Mamdani, but he has seized on a powerful message that resonates. That message is affordability. Look, I have no time for socialists, and I have absolutely no time for anti-Semites. But when people are stretched financially, a candidate who promises to address their issues has a lot of appeal. And the issues are, for many people, rent, electricity, healthcare, the basic cost of living. Those costs are noticeably higher. Rent up nearly 4% nationwide. The Census Bureau says more than half of all renters pay more than a third of their income in rent. People are squeezed. Electricity prices up 6%, more in some places. Have you seen your dentist bill? Have you seen your doctor's bill? This is what voters pay attention to. These are the original kitchen table issues. And Mamdani cleverly uses social media to say, hey, I can help. Also, the massive accumulation of wealth by tech titans has not gone unnoticed. Oracle's founder, Larry Ellison, saw his net worth go up by more than $100 billion in one day. Of course the socialists are going to play that up and contrast it with the unaffordability of everyday life for everyday people. Young voters are not inclined to care about multi-billionaires keeping America ahead in the AI race. AI may be taking their job. I want to be clear. Mamdani's socialism will not work. New York simply cannot afford free buses, free universal childcare, health care for illegals, subsidized grocery stores, on and on. But it is appealing to people who look no further than their own squeezed finances. Mamdani has already picked up the vigorous support of the left, from AOC to Bernie Sanders. And he's beginning to pick up support from politicians who would be more inclined to call themselves moderates. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, for example, and maybe Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat leader in the House. Why? Because affordability is a rallying cry for everyone. It is likely to be the slogan the Democrats carry into next year's midterms. I don't think socialism sells outside deep blue enclaves, but affordability does. When he wins in November, as is increasingly likely, that message will be noticed. It is not Mamdani's socialism that resonates, it is affordability. Second hour of Varney, just getting started. Kamala Harris is on her book tour. She seemed to be endorsing Mamdani. Listen.
Do you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race, sure. But let me just say this. He's not the only star. I know that, he's in New York, and I know New Yorkers think they're the center of the world, and here we are in New York having this interview.
It is the biggest city in the country.
And I love New York, as the saying goes. I really do. But, there are people like Barbara Drummond in Mobile, Alabama, Helena Moreno in New Orleans. They're all running for mayor, too, and they are stars.
Okay, we'll get back to Kamala Harris in just a moment. The gentleman right outside of the screen, there's Mark Thiessen. I want to get back to this affordability. I think that is his central. I think that's Mamdani's central appeal, which appeals to a great many Democrats, moderate and leftists alike.
You're absolutely right. Affordability is a issue, and it's effective for him. But the answer is not communism.
Right.
If you want, if things were very affordable, food and housing were very affordable in the Soviet Union if you could get them. People forget the bread lines that existed. That's what government grocery stores produce. And if you want a more recent example, just look at Venezuela, which it has so much oil it should be the Saudi Arabia of Central America. Instead, it's a basket case of poverty. So if New Yorkers want to bring that, and by the way, Mamdani says he's not a communist, he's a democratic socialist. You know who else said that? The German Democratic Republic, East Germany, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, North Vietnam. You go down the list. Anytime someone puts the modifier democratic in front of either their country or their political ideology, it's a giveaway that they are communists. And if New Yorkers want to elect a communist, then hook Katie bar the door.
Talk to me about Kamala Harris's book. From what I've seen, she seems to be trashing Joe Biden and establishment Democrats and saying, look, I lost in large part because you wouldn't support me. What do you say?
Well, first of all, that interview is clear evidence of why they didn't allow her to do interviews during the campaign. Yeah. She is on the way out. This is her swan song. She is finished. She's washed up, she's the Michael Dukakis of the Democratic Party of the 21st century. So she's trying to make some money off of her book, but this is not the this is a reminder to Democrats. This is not the way forward.
Got it. Mark Thiessen, it's always a pleasure, and we'll see you again real soon. Mark Thiessen, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Check out that market, please. Solid gain for the Dow, but that is based on about 4 or 5 specific stocks, which are sharply higher. S&P up 2, NASDAQ is down 64 points. Joining me now, Scott Shellady. Markets are coming off a series of records. They're at a series of records. That's where we are right now. Where do we go from here, Scott?
I mean, there's a lot to be to like of this market, Stuart. I mean, number one, the earnings have been fantastic, or great, I would say. Obviously, we've got artificial intelligence. There's the Mag 7 dragging up a lot of these stocks. I'd like to see the rally broaden out a little bit, and I think that'll be the case. And then, obviously, we've got interest rates coming down. And I haven't even begun to talk about what we're going to get in the big, beautiful bill with different accounting techniques that are going to help our smaller businesses and how they can expense things and who can pay taxes, who's not going to have to pay taxes on tips and those types of things. So I'm generally speaking very, very bullish to the economy. So new highs beget new highs generally. So I think this thing's ready to go. I'm excited for the next 9 months. Towards the back half of next year, that's when I think we might have a little bit of a bumpy ride. But right now in the short term, I think it's all systems go.
It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Cleveland Fed President, that would be Beth Hammack. She says inflation is too high and the Fed must be cautious about easing interest rates. Watch this.
On the inflation side, we are missing by a more meaningful number, by a full percentage point, because I think it's important that we stay restrictive to bring inflation back down to target. We have this debate within economic circles and within the committee around what is the neutral rate, what's sort of that natural rate of interest. I have one of the higher estimates on the committee, and I think we're only very mildly restrictive after last week's move.
You know, Scott, that's all technical stuff as far as I'm concerned, but the bottom line seems to be that she doesn't want any more rate cuts at this point. What do you want to hear from Jay Powell when he speaks at, I think it's 12:30 Eastern time today?
Well, I mean, obviously the rest of the market would like to hear what I want to hear, and I want him to be a little bit more dovish. I mean, if you watched the market when he was speaking the last time, that 10-year yield took off when he started talking about inflation and worries about inflation. So it's almost like he wants there to be some inflation so he can be proven right. I mean, we've waited so long to start cutting rates because he's been waiting for inflation that really hasn't shown up. There is a small risk. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's going to be tariff risk. I just think it's going to be, you know, the last time we had inflation at 9.1% under Joe Biden, the money supply had exploded. Well, the money supply today is just a little bit more than it was back when we had 9.1% inflation. So if we do have a problem, it's about the amount of money in the system. It's not about tariffs. And I think that's what she's alluding to there, but it hasn't shown up yet. The only worry is if you look at all the inflation data we've gotten over the last 4 months, slowly but surely, we've been a little higher month over month. Now, everybody's been looking at it as benign because we meet expectations, and that makes people think that it's not really a big deal. But we are slowly but surely rising month over month, and that's what she's alluding to. And that's what I say maybe next year we're going to have to start to deal with some of those problems.